tribal trails. The Son of God, He's near. He chose to walk with us these tribal trails.
Hi, welcome to Tribal Trails. Today when we're in Vancouver, BC, we're going to be visiting with Sammy, Sam. Wow. Can you first tell us where did you originate from?
I am from Victoria. My reservation is Sartlip in West Saanich. Then I moved over here to Maple Ridge on the mainland with my mother to K442 First Nations.
Okay. Did you go to school here then?
I did. My mother took me over here from Victoria when I was 5. So I pretty much grew up here. I moved back to Victoria to work for a while after I got out of school, but eventually I just came back here.
Mm-hmm. How was it growing up here?
It was pretty good because I went to a normal school and not a tribal school. Mm-hmm. So it was a different experience from tribal school to regular school with Caucasians and non-natives. Mm-hmm. So I did a little bit of adjusting. It took a while.
How were you as a teenager?
Growing up over here in Maple Ridge was a lot of fun because when I was finished school, I would come home and watch TV and then go play with my friends on the reserve and just enjoy being over here. Mm. Yeah. I went back home every now and then to Victoria, but mostly I just grew up here.
King Solomon said, "I have seen the burden God has laid on men. He has made everything beautiful in its time. He has also set eternity in the hearts of men, yet they cannot fathom what God has done from beginning to end. I know that everything God does will endure forever. Nothing can be added to it, and nothing taken from it. God does it so that men will revere Him."
How did you find out about the Lord?
I didn't become a Christian until like much later when I was 31. I was working odd jobs here and there, and it wasn't until I started my last job at a mushroom farm out in Maple Ridge, a Taiwanese mushroom farm. Then I met my girlfriend there, and I went to her Mandarin church. Even though they only spoke Mandarin in the service, she had decided that she was going to stop going to her services and hang out with me on Sundays. And as a Catholic, I felt a little guilty that she would choose me over God. I was like, hey, maybe you should go to your service. And she was like, hey, I want to hang out with you. And I was like, oh, why don't we just go to your service and then we'll hang out after? And she was like, but it's in Mandarin, you don't understand. And I understood a little because I picked up some Mandarin from work, mm-hmm. So I know a little bit. And I decided that we should go, and then we were going, and that was okay. I told her the message is the same in German, in Spanish, and English. God loves you. And she's like, all right, if you want to go, we will. So we were going to the Mandarin service in Burnaby, and it was fine, but maybe a month or two into it, her friend, Judy's friend, Ling Ling, decided she wanted to go to a different church that was at a different location in New West. Mm-hmm. So she said, hey, I want to go to this English congregation in New West. Mm-hmm. And I was overjoyed because it was English, and it was in New West, which is closer to Maple Ridge, where I'm from. So I thought, wow, it's closer and it's in English? Sure, I was thrilled. So they're like, okay. So we went to this New West one, and all the people were like super nice, and I was so happy. And when the service was over, I was like, this place is great, I love it here. It's like, Mr. Rogers, they're nice, it's closer, it's English. And they're like, yeah, all our friends are in Burnaby, we're going back there. And I was like, oh. So for me, it was kind of okay. I was like, oh, wherever thou goest, I will follow. But shortly afterwards, like several weeks later, my girlfriend left me. So when she left me, I was like pretty broken up. I was pretty distraught. I was like, God, why? Like, I get one girlfriend in my life for 1 year, and then she leaves. I was like, why is this happening to me? And so I was moping around for a while, and I was thinking, why?
Seek the Lord while he may be found. Call on him while he is near. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. As the rain and the snow come down from heaven, and do not return to it without watering the earth and making it bud and flourish, so that it yields seed for the sower and bread for the eater, so is my word that goes out from my mouth. It will not return to me empty, but will accomplish what I desire and achieve the purpose for which I sent it.
Then I thought, oh yeah, that church in New West, it was really nice. I wonder if I can go to this Asian congregation without my Asian girlfriend. I thought, can I do that? Am I allowed? I didn't know, so I thought, well, it couldn't hurt. You know, I thought I'll try, and if they don't accept me, then I won't go. So when I went back, the senior pastor didn't recognize me. He thought I was there for the host church that they were renting from. He's like, oh, are you here for Connet Heights? I'm like, no, I'm here for Amazing Grace. And he was like, yeah, it's upstairs. Their English service will be starting pretty soon. I'm like, no, I'm here for this one. And then he didn't understand because as a senior pastor, he didn't know all of the congregation. But the regular pastor came in, his son. I was like, oh, hey, you were here before, right, with those girls. I was like, yeah, right, it was. And he was like, yeah, I remember your hair. So I was like, of course. Hey, come on, come sit. Like I said, Mr. Rogers, right? Hey, come on, sit down. I was like, then his dad clued in. Oh, you're here for this. I was like, yeah, what I said. So he's like, oh, okay. So he let his son take care of me. And then his son was like, yeah, come sit down. He's like, yeah, you're gonna come to the service? And he was asking about my girlfriend. It's like, oh no, yeah, she left me, so we're not kind of thing. And he was like, oh, okay, but you came yourself. I was like, yeah, I remember it was, the atmosphere was like so great, right? And he's like, oh, come sit down. So he was like telling me about the service, and he was introducing me to more people. Then I'd met on my initial service, right? And I got to know some of the other people, and I stayed for the service. So I started attending regularly, Conrad, and then my friend now, Ray, invited me to a Bible study group at his house, you know, during the week. I was like, oh, more? You know, outside of Sunday? He's like, yeah, it's just a Bible study. We get together, we talk about God and more. It's just a little more personal than the service, and it'll be at my house in Vancouver. And I was like, yeah, I guess it won't hurt, I thought. And so he was like, yeah, come on Fridays. So I started attending the Bible study, and it was good. I was learning more about God than I was just on a regular Sunday basis.
higher ground. You set my feet upon higher ground, above sinking sand. No storms of life can endanger me now that my feet are upon higher ground.
Your voice came sweetly and clear to me. I heard and stretched out my hand. You reached from heaven to rescue me, lifted me up to stand on higher ground.
Someday, Lord, I'll need to stand a warrior in an alien land. But most days, Lord, I just need to know that my Father loves me so.
Higher ground, you set my feet upon higher ground, above sinking sand. No storms of life can endanger me now that my feet are upon higher ground. Now that my feet are upon higher ground. Now that my feet are upon higher ground.
And then Ray, after attending his Bible study for a while, my Bible study group leader was like, hey, you should also come out to the Encounter Retreat. And I was like, Encounter Retreat, what's that? And he was like, it's a retreat. We go out to this retreat. We talk more about God, like the Bible study, but it's a little more in-depth. And it's for 3 days, and there's no media, no newspaper, no computer, no phone, no TV. And I'm like, what am I going to do at this thing, Ray, if there's no... He's like, I told you, we're going to be talking about God. I was like, okay, well, when is it? He's like, well, it'll be the 3 days, the Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And I was like, well, I could probably go Sunday, Ray, but my work, I work on the weekends at the farm where I met my girlfriend. I work Saturdays. So I work Fridays. I work. Mm-hmm. So I thought, at the time, I thought I could be making money Friday mm-hmm. and Saturday. Mm-hmm. And I'll go Sunday. And he's like, no, it's a 3-day thing, Sam. You go for 3 days. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, I'll think about it. I was thinking, well, it sounds good. You know, it sounds like an expansion of the Bible study and the service. So I could, but well, I think I'd rather go to work on Friday and Saturday. So I thought, yeah, I won't go. And that's when I discovered God spoke to me at work about the Encounter Retreat.
Elihu said to Job, why do you complain to him that he responds to no one's words? For God does speak, now one way, now another, though no one perceives it. In a dream, in a vision of the night, when deep sleep falls on people as they slumber in their beds, he may speak in their ears and terrify them with warnings to turn them from wrongdoing and keep them from pride.
God was like, Sam, any fear or doubt you have about my Encounter Retreat is the enemy trying to keep you in bondage. And I was like, whoa, I did not know God speaks to us. At the time, I was kind of overwhelmed. The incredible sensation. It was like a tsunami of joy. It just hit me. I was like, whoa. And I couldn't believe I had not experienced this joy, this level of joy before. Mm-hmm. I was like, why haven't I known this joy before? I was crying. It was my coworker at the Taiwanese farm. Long only spoke Mandarin or Chinese, so he didn't know what to do. Why is Sam crying? Is he unhappy at work? He was thinking, I was like, but I just broke and I couldn't take it. I was like, God, stop. This is too much joy. I didn't know that the human body was only meant to contain so much joy. So he stopped and he was like, okay. By that point, I was 100% certain I was going to the encounter retreat.
King David said, I will praise the Lord who counsels me. Even at night, my heart instructs me. You have made known to me the path of life. You will fill me with joy in your presence, with eternal pleasures at your right hand.
After the day was done, I told my boss, I was like, hey, boss, I'm going to have to take Friday and Saturday off this week because I'm doing a thing at my church. And my boss knew that my girlfriend and I were Christians, so she understood, although she's a Buddhist, she understood that we were committed to the church, so she allowed us. So when I got home, I was like on the phone to my Bible study leader at the church. I was like, Ray, my boss said I could go. So, and God spoke to me. God told me that any fear or doubt would have, is the enemy trying to keep me in bondage? And he's like, okay. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. God just spoke to me. He says he speaks to us all, Sam. We just are distracted, right? With career and relationships and finances and all these things that distract you from God's love, right? Things of the world that will distract you. And so he was like, yeah, he speaks to us all the time. We're just not always hearing.
From time to time, we all allow things in this world to take our focus from Christ. So let us learn a lesson from two sisters. They were Martha and Mary. One day, Jesus and his disciples went to the village where the two sisters lived. Martha, being the oldest in the family, welcomed them into their home. The Bible said that Mary sat at Jesus' feet and listened to his teaching. On the other hand, her sister Martha, distracted with much serving, was upset with her. Why? Because Martha wanted to prepare a nice meal and show great hospitality, and Mary was not helping her. When she could not stand it any longer, she criticized her sister and asked the Lord to intervene. But Christ just spoke tenderly to Martha that only one thing was needed. That was listening to his words. And that's what Mary had chosen. I believe many of us can identify with Martha. Whenever we criticize others and pity ourselves because we feel overworked, we had better check our attitude and our lives. In all my busyness, have I spent time with the Lord? We should ask ourselves that. If you want to share with someone about your walk with God, give us a call. We would love to talk with you and pray with you.
I come to the garden alone, while the dew is still on the roses, and the voice I hear falling on my ear, the Son of God discloses, and he walks with me, and he talks with me, and he tells me I am his own. And the joy we share as we tarry there us ever know.
The psalmist said, "As the deer pants for streams of water, so my soul pants for you, my God. My soul thirsts for God, for the living God. When can I go and meet with God?"
So I went to the encounter retreat, and there was more. I didn't know. The sessions were on various topics about the Gospels, but the initial one that spoke to me was the one on forgiveness, because I had grown up, Conrad, with a lot of discrimination. As the only First Nation in my elementary and high school, I experienced a lot of discrimination, so it made me very angry inside. Mm-hmm. But I was just learned how to accept, like, that it's a part of life to be discriminated against. Once I became a believer, I understood that we have to love and forgive. And one of the primary things I learned at the session at the encounter retreat, that we can't enter his kingdom with an unforgiving heart. Mm. So the first thing I learned was that you have to forgive, even though it was very hard for me personally, because I felt I was a victim, Conrad. Like, I was wronged. Mm-hmm. And I have to do the forgiving. I was asking God, why should I forgive them for wronging me? And God said in the gospel, you have to love your enemies, and forgiveness, right? Mm-hmm. And so I let go. Then I had never been that free, mm-hmm. Conrad, before. I was like, a giant weight lifted from me. I was like, wow. I was telling myself, I feel so free. Mm-hmm. It's like, you are free, because we're in bondage. All these things are bondage, like all of the music, the TV, the like garbage in, garbage out, right? So I thought, wow, all my CDs were not glorifying God, they're glorifying us. All the lyrics were all very profound, but you know, they were just unhealthy, mm-hmm. right? So I had to get rid of all of it. And then the one of the things that I had enjoyed previously was role playing with the dice, which is, I found out, was based on witchcraft. So I had to get rid of the Dungeons and Dragons too. So I just realized that all of this was just separating me, mm-hmm. from God, because it just took my focus away from Him, mm-hmm. and from the relationship.
Jesus said, "No one can serve two masters. Either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money."
And then I started to go regularly, and then enjoy the Bible study more. And then eventually, through one of my martial arts classes, I learned that my instructor and some of the other students were attending their service, which was very close to my service. Mm-hmm. So I had decided to attend their service as well, and just take in more, like, mm-hmm. To know God more and deeper, enjoy a deeper relationship with God. And I realized how empty things of the world, there wasn't any real joy in it compared to what I had experienced, mm-hmm. you know, from hearing God.
You've heard from Sammy how the world can be empty, and it can be distracting. What is the world? It doesn't mean the earth. What does the Bible say about it? Let us go to 1 John 2, where the apostle told believers to avoid it. He said, "Do not love the world, nor the things in the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the boastful pride of life is not from the Father, but it is from the world." The Greek word, the world, is cosmos. It has more than one meaning. The Apostle John used it here as an entity hostile to God, or those opposing God and his purposes. The Apostle James also used these words in his letter to warn believers that friendship with the world is hostility towards God, for it is a system made up of values and goals from which God is excluded. To describe the things in the world, John uses three phrases: the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the boastful pride of life. That effectively highlights the world's false outlook. Christians ought not to have anything to do with such ungodly and worldly perspectives. After all, as it says in 1 John 2:17, the world and its desires are temporary. They will pass away. But he who does the will of God abides forever. So I encourage you to choose to obey God by following his Son, Jesus Christ, every day. In John 14:6, Jesus said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me." If you have any questions about knowing God's will and avoiding the distractions of this world, please feel free to call us here.
He speaks, and the sound of his voice is so sweet. All the birds hush their singing, and the melody that he brings to me. My heart is ringing, and he walks with me, and he talks with me, and he tells me I am his own. Joy we share as we tarry there, none other has ever known. And the joy we share as we tarry